Welcome once again to the Cow Report. I'm your host, Chuck Lee, and this is Monday, October 10th, 1994, Fred.
Good afternoon.
And boy, we got a lot to talk about today. Looks like we're going to go back to war again.
No, I don't think so.
Well, of course, with me...
Of course, I don't think that Clinton's going to lead the troops.
Just wait a minute, Fred. Wait till the music stops here. This is a big production. Okay, I think we're on the air now. I thought I heard the microphones. All right, now, this is the Cow Report, and we're coming to you from the beautiful downtown L.E. Phillips Memorial Library in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and this is October 10th, Fred, 1994. And boy, we got a lot to talk about today.
You have.
Yep. And as usual, I see you're color coordinated to the T, Fred.
You betcha.
Now, can we get a shot at, can you stand up and get a shot of this, Fred?
Even got red socks on.
Now look at there, red pants, red shirt,
red socks,
and a blue tie that matched the blue hat.
Right.
The red shirt matches the red in the hat.
See, that's when you come on the show, you should be color coordinated too.
I know. Well, that's one thing that Fred, that they can always say about Fred.
You have
He's
to
colorful.
You should have to go to my tailor there and get those things taken care of.
Fred, he's colorful. That's one thing they can say about him. Okay, well, Fred, since this is October 10th, we're right in the middle of a giant political campaign, Fred, and
yes.
I'm sure the viewers saw yesterday's Leader Telegram. And you know, Fred, I just watched Schindler's List. You can get it now at most of the video stores, and it's a long movie. It's over 3 hours.
Yes.
But one of the tactics of the German Nazi Party, or actually it was a socialist party.
That's true.
Europe was engulfed in socialism back in the 30s. You had the German socialists led by Hitler, and you had the Russian socialists led by Stalin, butting heads over there and cutting deals, and finally they went to war with each other, two giant socialist powers. But one of the German tactics, Fred, was to go after the Jews. They had to make them less than human. If you recall, they showed videotapes of the Jews, and then they would compare them to rats, and they show a picture of a rat, and then they show a picture of a Jew, and they tried to put it into the viewer's mind that a Jew was less than human. He was a rat-like person and a thief and a big spender and all that, and they kept that drumbeat up for about 10, 12 years.
I don't know if they tried to portray him as big spenders.
Well, maybe not big spenders, but money grabbers or whatever. They tried to make them look like they're the ones that caused all the problems in Germany with the money system and everything. And you can see the same thing going on today. And matter of fact, Russia has pretty much taken over the propaganda that the Germans used to use. And Russia still has a lot of anti-Jewish propaganda. So do the Middle Eastern countries. A lot of Jewish hatred over there because of the situation in Israel. Well, in this article Sunday, they had on the city page, it says, analysts, Gunderson in the lead. And it talks about where I'm at in the race and what my influence is going to be. And all of a sudden now they're starting to say that it almost sounds like I'm an itinerant drifter, Fred, that I just drifted in town here for a couple of days to run in this race, and then I'm going to drift back across the border in Canada or Mexico or something. So all of a sudden now they're labeling me as unemployed, and the analogy was that they're starting to try and put out their propaganda now that I'm less than a worthy candidate. So this is coming right out of the poison pen of the Leader Telegram. And I talked to the reporter about it, and he was trying to justify it. But as we know, the grass camps are in love with the Gunderson camp, and so you have to expect this from them, that they want their boy to win, so they're trying to downgrade the other candidates and upgrade their candidate. It's an old tactic, Fred. It's nothing new. It's part of the propaganda wars that have been going on for years, ever since there's been newspapers and radio and TV. So, what do you got there? If you get
well,
something
I was just thinking about since they approve of homosexuality, I know that God doesn't in the Bible, that He did destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. He called it an abomination. He also said that thou shalt not lie with mankind, or as with womankind. It is an abomination. That's in the Bible. That's not us saying it, but as far as the Leader Telegram is concerned, that is okay.
Well, you know, Fred,
there's something else, too, in Corinthians, where it says, know ye, and this is 6, 9, 10, know you that the upright shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Be not deceived, neither fornicators, idolaters, adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, or drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God. And that isn't you or me saying it. That is what is in the Bible.
You know, that
But
pretty much covers
the
everybody.
Bible doesn't seem to the Bible doesn't seem to mean much to the Leader Telegram,
Well, Fred,
unfortunately.
that list you just read pretty much covers probably everybody in the world.
Well, not quite.
I think so, Fred.
No, it may cover quite a few, but that is just an indication where you're going, up or down.
It covers everybody, Fred. We're all sinners saved by
Well,
grace.
we're sinners, but
So anyway, Fred, it covers everybody. That's why they're all named in there. It just doesn't single out homosexuals. If you read it again, it names quite a few sins there, Fred. And we're all guilty of those sins. So let's remember that, because if we're pointing the finger at somebody else, 3 fingers are pointing back at us.
well, that's what God pointed that finger,
I know.
not us.
So we got to point it at ourselves too, Fred, because
Well, go ahead. You point away there.
you might be a saint, Fred, but I'm not. I'm a sinner saved
I'm
by
a
grace.
sinner just as well as
Okay,
you are,
let's-
but I am not committing those sins.
Well, that's good then. I'm sure there are some that you are. All right. Well, anyway, Fred, last week we had the term limits guy on. You remember back that far? Last Monday night, we had the term limits man
How
on.
could I forget?
I know you asked some very in-depth questions there. Anyway, there was an 800 number, and people have asked where they can get that poster of Rostenkowski, because it is a life-size large poster. It's a free copy of that poster. There's the number again if you want to write it down. It's an 800 number, so it's free. And it was from the term limits guy. And as a matter of fact, Fred, it's 1-800-TERMS-94. That's the phone number. And if you want to call in, you'll get that large-size poster of Rostenkowski. And a lot of people collect posters and adorn their houses with them, Fred. And going along with that on the term limits, I don't know if you read this, Fred, but they got a federal judge to go along with.
Good.
Remember when he was on here,
Right.
that Monday afternoon, they just filed their lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since then, it says here a federal magistrate asked officials in 18 municipalities Friday, which was just last Friday, to answer allegations that they denied voters a chance to enact limits on how long politicians can hold elective office. That was federal magistrate Aaron Goodstein, was applauded by William Pangman, a lawyer for a group whose civil suit requests a term limit resolution on referendum ballots during the general election. And the group that he was here, he explained that he's for 3 term limits for the House of Representatives, 2 terms for the U.S. Senate, 2 terms for municipal officers, and no more than 8 consecutive years in the state legislature. And under state law, Fred, the reason they're acting on this quickly is because they have to have the ballots made up by October 17th, so they're running out of time here. Today is the 10th. They got one more week to decide what's going to be on that ballot. So the judge asked for them to submit their briefs by tomorrow so that they can rule by the 17th to make a final ruling on that. So they're moving along on the term limits issue in Wisconsin, Fred, and that is a hot issue nationwide. And we spent the whole hour discussing that last week, so we won't do that again today. But of course, Fred, you know you're still batting 1,000. The baseball strike's still on. This would be World Series time right now if it wasn't for the greediness of all parties concerned in the baseball strike. So the only game in town is the Fred Stafford game. You're batting 1,000. Now, last week we pulled you out of the rotation there and let the guy that was sitting in the middle answer that question there. So you're still safe. You're batting 1,000. So we're going to see if we're going to stump you today, if we can break this string, Fred, because how many months has this been going on now?
I don't know.
Well, Fred's still pouting from the last round, so I hope Betty's watching to see your behavior.
No, she's not.
Oh, that's good. No wonder you're acting up. Okay, Fred. On this date, well, actually yesterday, October 9th, there was a famous rock and roll group, Fred, that scored a #1 hit with a song called Yesterday. This was 1965,
Well,
October 9th.
I think that would be the Beatles.
Well, I'll tell you, Fred. Now that was a hard one there, and you got that.
Not really.
Now, you actually got some of the Beatles songs, don't you?
Well, I may have some, but not generally played by the Beatles. I don't have any. I may have one or two, three rock and roll records, and they're played by musicians.
You got the big band versions or the
Big
string
band
versions?
songs and so forth.
It's amazing how they take them old rock and roll songs, Fred, and you can hear them in elevators and stuff now, and it sounds like elevator music or background music in offices. No words to them, but it's the same old Beatles and Rolling Stones and all them songs. They made them into these fancy background sounds like Muzak.
Hmm.
And you had to admit you even had one. Okay, Fred, well, you're still batting 1,000. We couldn't stump you. I got a few others here before the show's over. Now, Fred, this show gets a lot of support from the cows out there.
Yeah.
And once again, in the Leader Telegram, there's a photograph today, if we can get one of the camera people to zero in on that. And there's a Chatty Bell. Supposed to be the world's largest talking cow. There's a photograph of her.
Probably down at Neilsville.
Today's Leader Telegram. And Chatty Bell, right next to it up there, that right there is the world's largest hunk of cheese.
Yeah.
That was at, I think, the World's Fair back in the 60s, or maybe not, but it was traveled the state a few years back.
Was over in New York.
And
back about 64.
That is over there in Neilsville, right next to that building that was in the 1964 World's Fair, right across from the fairgrounds over there. So now you can see the world's largest hunk of cheese. You can see the world's largest talking cow. You can see a building that was in the World's Fair, all right there in Neilsville.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just another good ad for the cow program, Fred.
You know, you should have that talking cow down here and interview it.
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe we can do that. Or maybe I can get over there and interview it, Fred. I guess that's kind of put on by the Associated Milk Producers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Fred. Well, we were going to start talking about Iraq. And I said it looks like we're in trouble with Iraq again, but you said no. So what were you going to say about it?
I don't think it would. Iraq is foolish enough to go through the same scenario. They'd only wind up on the losing end, and we've got some 30,000 troops over there already.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't win. It's a Russian roulette. They can't win. Now, I think that Clinton did this to buoy up his sinking ratings.
Well, you know, Ross Perot said the same thing on the first night of his new radio talk show that he has going out nationwide. He pointed out the exact same thing, Fred, and I pointed out the same thing. As a matter of fact, in a brochure that I've had printed up for quite a while now, several months, when I was trying to get us to keep from going into Haiti, one of my campaign issues was to stay out of Haiti because all it was a way of boosting Clinton's sagging ratings and the greedy Congress that wants to get reelected. They're looking for something to take people's minds off of how bad.
I think that was promoted by the Black Caucus, and since they are a formidable bloc in Congress, and the president needs their support on issues, that he did as they requested. He went in.
Well, you know, Fred, it didn't boost the ratings like they hoped it did, so now, all of a sudden, we got a crisis in Iraq. But you know, we've had satellites up there for several weeks now. One shuttle after another is going up there. We got satellites that photograph Iraq daily, almost hourly. Now, they've known about the troop movements into southern Iraq for several weeks, but now they want to spring it on us right before the elections that we've got a crisis in Iraq, and they're going to push this Hussein guy back into Baghdad and save the day again just before the elections. Now, there's another reason why Hussein's in southern Iraq, Fred. It has to do with the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
Mm-hmm.
That southeastern Iraq is marshes. And Hussein's enemies inside of Iraq live in the marshes. They were driven into that area several years ago. Well, Hussein doesn't like that opposition there. So what he's done is he's actually damming up parts of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers
Mm-hmm.
and diverting that water away from the marshes so they dry up so his troops can go in there and annihilate the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing new that they've been in southern Iraq. Anyway, they're down there killing people every day, the opposition. That's what socialists and communists are good at, is killing the opposition.
Well, is he a socialist?
That's right. He has been since the 70s. His Socialist Party took Iraq over in the 70s. And he worked very closely. As a matter of fact, during the Desert Storm War there, Russia was bringing in transport planes loaded with guns and ammo and tanks and everything right up till the deadline when the United States said that's enough.
I know. 40 planes a day were coming in.
Okay, Fred, if we can get the cameraman to show a picture of the cow phone, we're going to start taking some calls because we do have calls coming in. And we're supposed to get a call today, Fred, from a radio talk show host in Boston, Massachusetts. That's part of your old stomping grounds, Fred.
Not exactly, but
And
I've been there years ago. I've gone through it a few times.
I don't know what happened to half my stuff here, Fred, but the guy's name is Joe Mazoo or something like that from a Boston talk show.
Okay.
And he was talking about cows and UFOs on his program last night, so we're going to take this call here and we'll see what's going on. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, how's Fred today?
Fred
Great.
who? This guy?
Yeah, that guy there.
You bet. Great.
What's that say on his hat there?
Welch.
No telling who he's
Common
pushing.
sense.
Oh, we can tell the camera didn't zero in on it, Fred.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Fred, he ought to have a slogan, I won't welch on a bet.
Well, yes.
Here you go. Well, anyway, say, how's the Leader Telegram treating you in your bid for Congress?
Well, at least they spell my name right. Other than that, not too good.
It seems like that's all you see is Steve Gunderson in there. Do you think they got something going, a little conspiracy there or something?
Well, we just talked earlier how they've given, in the last couple of weeks, they've given Gunderson several nice fluffy interviews, and they've totally ignored the other three candidates, including Stour, who's supposed to be giving the guy a run for his money. But even yesterday's headline said, analysis, Gunderson in the lead. Stour likely to give incumbent a battle. So that what's really sad about it is they use someone like Mort Cypress, who's an old Democratic political hack and a spin doctor for the Democrats for years. They use him as an unbiased political analyst. And it's the farthest from the truth. Mort Cypress jumped for glee and almost peed his pants when the socialist Wellstone won over in Minnesota. I mean, the guy's as Democrat as they get. He's not unbiased in this thing.
It's too bad that they're trying to control elections. You know, they've got a history of doing that. But anyway, have you heard any rumors on Don Brill as a write-in for Steve Gunderson's job there? They've got a draft movement possibly thinking about. You heard anything on that?
No, it sounds like he's trying to push it on the phone, though, Fred.
Oh, I haven't heard anything about that, sir.
I haven't either. When did that start?
I don't know. We just heard some talk about it, but if not, Chuck, you got a good chance. I think you could beat him at this time.
Well, we're locked into 4 debates now, and maybe 6. It looks like there's some negotiations on a couple other minor ones, but we've got 4 big ones lined up, and the League of Women Voters are involved in 3, and the other one is run by University of Wisconsin-Platteville Student Activities Board. So we got one in Eau Claire, La Crosse, River Falls, and Platteville, and there's United We Stand. That's another neutral group, are putting on one in Rice Lake. That'll be real interesting. I'm sure that one will be slanted towards their candidate, Weinhold. But those 4 major debates, there is a possibility that C-SPAN might come in and cover one of those and put it on either live or tape rebroadcast on C-SPAN, one of those 4. They're right now looking at possibly doing one of those. So if we can get a good shot and we get some good media coverage at those 4 debates, this will turn into a horse race. But if you just read the Leader Telegram, I might as well just throw in the towel and just go home and not even be in the race, according to Leader Telegram.
Well, I think you got a valid point there. I believe if you can get your message out, Steve Gunderson's got so many negatives right now that I believe you could possibly walk away with it. Who knows what could happen here? So I just say go get him.
The only one that looks like they're telling the truth is the Washington political newspaper, The Roll Call, and they said it could be a mass bloodbath nationwide. The guy there said it's really wild. according to a quote in the Leader-Telegram, and a massive bloodbath. In other words, it could be a night of the long knives, Fred. They could be massacred all over the nation, the incumbents. And that's including all the way down to these state assemblies.
I think term limits, I enjoyed that program that you had last time about the gentleman talking about term limits. I think we need that, whether you're Democrat or Republican. I think it would help our nation.
You know, yesterday was the annual Eau Claire Right to Life gathering, and our party, if you can zero in on that, puts out a brochure from the U.S. Taxpayers Party of Wisconsin, and that's what the brochure says. It's time for a political party that is 100% pro-life. Not 30%, not 70%, not 90%, not we'll agree to kill 10% of the babies and let 90% live. We're 100% pro-life. So if you'd like to get that brochure, we'll mail it out to you, and you can call 834-3908 or 835-2133, and we'll send you that brochure telling why our party is 100% pro-life, Fred, not just in certain cases.
Well,
Because,
keep up the good work, guys. I'll let you go.
all right, thanks a lot, Colin.
Bye now.
And you know, Fred, you either got to be pro-life or not. It's kind of hard to say, well, we'll let 10% of them be.
I think what we have to do is we have to be a supporter of morality, because we send people to Washington, we send them to Madison, we even have them here in Eau Claire that spend money we don't have. And if you don't have it, you shouldn't spend it. Now, I can't do it, you can't do it, because it's going to catch up with you sooner or later. And that's why our country is in terrible shape. We're morally and politically sick.
You know, Fred, one thing, though, tied in with being pro-life is, if the government wants to spend money, let them spend money on halfway houses for young unmarried girls that want to have their babies, that need a place to stay.
Well, we have some places that do that.
Yeah, but I know it's it's 95% private, though.
Yes.
I mean, they got all kinds of elaborate stuff to go have an abortion, and you can get all kinds of millions of dollars of federal money for that.
They're not so interested in having those girls have the babies.
So
They want to abort them. That's big money in that, you know.
let's put some more money into
It may cause a lot of problems as far as the women are concerned, but what do they care?
Put
They're
more money
making
into
money.
adoption, Fred. Last I heard, there's 1 million couples waiting for babies to adopt. And we're killing about 1.2 million or so a year, so that would kind of even out if we got that many on a waiting list. All right, Fred, well, we talked about those debates, and hopefully C-SPAN will pick up on one of those, because according to several sources, including Mother Jones Magazine, which is a left-wing, kind of a socialist magazine, Newsweek, the National Journal, Congressional Quarterly, Cook's Political Report, the New York Times, the Eau Claire Leader-Telegram, and several other people, that there is interest in this race, and there's a possibility that C-SPAN would cover it. So we're hoping for that. And once again, I wanted to mention the dates of these debates coming up, and there could be some local coverage. I think Public Access is going to be covering one of them, or somebody that produces on Public Access. As far as I know right now, Fred, the debate season starts for the race for the 3rd Congressional District starts October 17th is the first one, and that one is at North High School at 7 p.m. Then we have the October 20th, the League of Women Voters of La Crosse will be having one at the WWIC TV studio there at the Technical College in La Crosse. That one starts at about 7:30, I think. Then on the 24th, we have Wisconsin Public Radio is going to have a 4-way forum between 8 and 9 a.m. So that's, anyone can pick that up on their local Wisconsin Public Radio station. Then that evening, the 24th, about 7:30, I'm supposed to be there at 7, so I think it starts at 7:30. There's one League of Women Voters in River Falls is holding one on campus there somewhere. And then Platteville, October 26th, we have one by the Student Activities Board in Platteville at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville at 8 p.m. And the one that we're not sure of, but it looks like it's a go for at least 3 of the candidates, including Gunderson, is one in Rice Lake by United We Stand America. Now that there will be a real neutral debate, Fred, since Weinhold is tied tied in 100% with the United We Stand group. I'm sure that one will be a fair and honest debate.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's set up for Rice Lake and Dave Johnston, your buddy from Quality Quick Prints, working on that one. So, Fred, the debate season is almost upon us, and it starts this next Monday night. So you know, Fred, you're going to have to start next Monday night show probably without me till I can rush down here. Because that debate ends at 8:30 p.m. I've got to get out of there, fight my way out of there, all those fans wanting autographs and stuff, to get down here by 9 o'clock for the show. So you're going to have to start the show without me, and hopefully we'll have our fine new cameraman there. We want to mention our new camera people here on the air today, and we've got Craig Lee, no relation. He's back running the cameras again.
I think he must be related.
And Linda, where is that? I wrote down her last name. Linda Holte is the other camera person who's just learning how to run the cameras down here. And that reminds me, Fred, you know, public access could use more volunteers, because there's always something that needs to be done down here, camera work,
Yes.
or helping in the studios, or learning how to edit, or the sound, or there's always something that needs to be done. So that number is 839-5067 if you'd like to volunteer or join public access. I'm sure Joel and Sherry would like that, because they can use help down here, because it is mostly volunteer work, Fred. They're not on a they're not on a very large budget. And I think it sounds like they might be staying here at the library for a few more months. You're on the library board. What's cooking on that?
Well, that is entirely possible, because we have not gone forward with the building proposal, and we can't we would need money to convert this into suitable space for the library.
So the library is just growing. It took a few years, but now it's kind of pushing out at the seams a little bit, huh? Too many books, or?
Well, no, I guess they can always use some more space.
Mm-hmm.
Whether this is the time to go ahead with it or not, is particularly with the financial situation, not only here, but in the rest of the country, might be something that should be pushed back.
Well, you know, Fred, I don't know what happened to half my paperwork here today, but that reminds me.
I haven't had any calls lately about that. I did get 7 calls on 2 for, 2 against, and 3 who thought it should be a referendum issue.
On what?
On the library expansion.
Oh, okay. Well, Fred, we were hoping we'd get a call from Boston, Massachusetts, but that guy, his show runs, I think, through the whole night, so he could be asleep right now. But anyway, I was going to bring up a point, Fred. You know, back in 1960, they said that there was about, I don't know how many millions of poor people in this country. So we started first Kennedy started his program, and what was that called? Later on,
I don't recall what it is, but
later on, Johnson
War on Poverty.
Yeah, and then Johnson picked it up and called it the Great Society Program.
Yeah.
And we dumped massive billions and billions of dollars into the fighting poverty from 1960 till 1994.
Well,
right
the people that are the primary beneficiaries of this are the bureaucrats who run the programs. They drain off a good percentage of what is supposed to be spent on the poor. And what is spent on the poor destroys their initiative, their pride, and their independence. It makes them dependent upon the government handouts. And you find that out if you talk to recipients of the program. They're so afraid they're going to lose it because they get a certain amount of money. It's not a whole lot. But they also get their hospital bills and doctor bills paid, and maybe their dental bills as well.
Okay, Fred, well, anyway, over those 34 years, there's no telling how many hundreds of billions of dollars we've sunk into fighting poverty. And
Right.
guess what? 34 years
There's
later.
more of them now.
34 years later, there's more poverty now than in 1960. Now, somebody would ask themselves, after billions and billions and billions of dollars, like Sagan says, billions and billions of years, just give me billions and billions of years and I'll prove evolution.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, they said, just give me billions.
He's not going to have that time, incidentally, to prove it. But go ahead.
In this case, they said, give us billions and billions of dollars, and this socialist government will eliminate poverty in our lifetime. Well,
You can't do it unless they take the money away from the people who have it, and that's not they're gonna take the people off the poverty rolls.
well, when I was 11 years old, they started this so-called war on poverty. And now I'm 45, and we've got 40 million poor people in this country, Fred, more than we had in 1960. Now, you'd ask yourself, since money didn't do it, then what caused all this poverty to stay with us when we supposedly have got a massive recovery going on here and everything's hunky-dory and everybody's happy again?
I don't believe that things are as great as they say. Every week I hear about people being laid off, 10,000 here, 5,000 there, 1,000 or 1,200 someplace else, and it's not so great. Oh, we're creating new jobs, part-time, minimum wage jobs. We're building more restaurants. We're building places to hire people at a minimum wage.
Well, we've
Stores, etc.
We've created a massive welfare bureaucracy in this country, Fred, where you have the have-nots, the poor people, here, and then you've got the welfare bureaucracy, the social workers, the money changers, the paper shufflers, the government, all those people that are feeding off this 40 million. So you got this symbiotic relationship that they're trying to continue
Yes.
going on here. Oh, yeah. Well, I've been told that the public access is manipulating my time on the air now. They're twisting it around and they're changing me to 2 o'clock next week. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, it's in the schedule for 9 p.m. next week. But they like to manipulate my time on the air, and I guess they're doing it again. So I have to find out. Maybe if I can get a schedule before the program's over, we'll see what it said in the schedule. I thought we were scheduled for 9 p.m. next week.
I thought so too.
But they're jerking us around because they like to manipulate that time coming up to elections so they can justify changing the dates just the day before the election, the time that I'm on. So they must be up to that trick again. They're good at that down here. But anyway, Fred, we're talking about the 40 million poor, and I guess there's about 13% of Wisconsin is considered under the poverty level.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a problem right here in Wisconsin with poverty.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Roy Rogers Hosk. Hot off the press gives me the schedule for October 17th. And it does say 2 o'clock, Fred. What happened?
I don't know.
I don't know either. This is October's. Okay, then I'm not on at all on the 31st.
Yeah. On the 24th you want.
Yeah, October 24th, 9 p.m., October 24th.
Right.
Monday the 17th, we're back on at 2.
It doesn't look like they want you on the night before the election. You might
Well,
sway
you know,
a few
Fred,
voters.
I was supposed to be on tonight at 9 o'clock. And tonight at 9 o'clock, instead of me being on, which was our agreement, they've got somebody called Our Towns Part 1 and 2 on. But I was supposed to be on the opposite nights when the Altoona City Council wasn't on. So now I'm on today at 2 instead of being on in the evening like I was supposed to. So the schedule gets jerked around from time to time. So then Monday the 17th, Altoona's on. So at least that saves us a little bit of time, Fred. If we're on again we're on 2 Mondays in a row at 2 o'clock.
Mm.
We're supposed to rotate on at 2 o'clock one week and then 9 the next.
Yes.
This keeps the audience confused so they don't know when to tune me in. All right, anyway, Fred, we were talking about poverty, and we are taking calls, and we do have a cow phone here if you want to zero in on the picture of the cow phone logo there. Down in the corner, if we can get that down right there.
Oh.
Easy, Fred, easy. Well, yeah, there you go. That's our logo for our cow phone. If you would like to make a call, the number is 839-5067. Okay, Fred.
Yes.
We're going to see if we can stump you again here. We know that you're batting 1,000. That's a well-known fact. Now, this one here is going to get you, Fred. I know it is.
Mm-hmm.
On this date, which is today,
Yes,
October 10th, 1973.
1973.
You know, we had in 73, we had a president and a vice president.
Yes. I
Now-
wonder if that's when
Now, wait a minute.
Mr. Nixon
No,
resigned.
don't be jumping the gun there, Fred. Wait till I ask you the question here. I ought to change it on you now.
Because I got it, huh? Before you asked it.
No. On this date, October 10th, 1973. Now remember this date, October 10th.
Yes.
One of those two resigned, either the president or the vice president, for tax evasion charges. Which one was it?
Well, it would have to be Spiro Agnew.
That's right. See, if I let you just leave it at that 1st one, you'd have lost out. Well, you got your record intact, Fred. You can't fool Fred. Well, okay, Fred. We've done that. We've taken care of the schedule. It's time to get something from you. What do you got there?
Well, I see we recently had the Cairo conference on UN population, and it revealed an alarming global agenda. What's rather interesting, all of those officially connected with this, as far as our government was concerned, were out and out supporters of abortion, promotion of condoms and so forth, and Planned Parenthood, National Organization of Women, National Abortion Rights League, seemed to be the representatives that we sent over there. Not even one person that I know of, and in reading the news accounts, were pro-life people. Now, there were pro-life people there, but they lifted some of the passes that they had so they couldn't get into the meeting. They didn't want them there, in other words. And that is our own government doing. This is the fairness of our government.
So they wanted to have a unified pro-abortion
unjust-
love fest, right?
Right.
Unified pro-abortion love
Right.
fest in Cairo.
Yes.
Did they get the job done?
Well, not quite, because they weren't able to sell their bill of goods there. But they're going to keep on trying, I believe.
You know, the rest of the world isn't too hot on it. I mean, the Catholic Church represents 1 billion people. They're not too hot on this, and maybe the United States there's some mixed feelings, but the rest of the world are pretty much still pro-life.
And the Muslims.
There's another 1 billion Muslims, and they're not too hot on that idea either about a world government interfering with their reproductive rights.
You know, it's tragic in a way that we have a president and an administration that promotes this, which to me is the greatest abuse of a woman is an abortion. That's murdering the child that she conceived, which causes all kinds of problems for some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this for a fact. I'm not just talking off the top of my head.
Now, speaking of that, Fred, yesterday was the Rally for Life in Wisconsin.
Yes.
And you know what? I was the only 3rd congressional pro-life candidate that attended.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
If Gunderson and Stour are so pro-life, where were they?
Well, Gunderson, I don't think I've ever seen him there.
Probably won't either.
Well,
anyway.
he wouldn't be there because Right to Life has endorsed his opponent, the Democratic opponent.
Well, from what I understand, they're rethinking that.
They are?
They're taking so much heat down there in Milwaukee. See, the head of Wisconsin Right to Life is a Democrat, but they've taken so much heat over the years, they've usually endorsed a Republican. Well, this year, they jumped the gun and endorsed Stour back in June.
Mm-hmm.
Brill was just barely getting in the race. I hadn't even announced yet. I think Weinholt was barely in, if at all. And they'd already endorsed Stour,
Mm-hmm.
lock, stock, and barrel. So they've taken heat ever since then. I guess they took some massive heat against Brill because Brill was more pro-life than Stour was. And I guess a lot of people were complaining from that camp and from the pro-life camp in other areas because, you know, these groups, they like Milwaukee's trying to tell the rest of the state how to vote. And the people up here didn't go along with it. There was a lot of conflict there, and I guess they did I think they ended up doing a dual endorsement of Brill and Stour. eventually at the end.
Well, they gave their standing on the issue, the questions they answered, and they answered the pro-life questions the same way.
Okay, Fred. Guess what?
What?
The Eau Claire City Council is going to raise taxes.
No.
They've loosened up that leash and they've
Well, when they raise the spending, they got to get the money from somewhere, so they hit the taxpayer.
taxpayers should expect to see about a 3.5% average increase in their city tax bill in '95. Now, you know what they did in conjunction with that? They did a double whammy on the folks there. I don't know if they realize it.
They increased their assessments.
They all realize it when they get their tax bill this time. First of all, they jacked up the assessments. They did a whole reassessment of the city, jacked that up, so now they've got this whole big giant bunch of money now to play with, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? They're like a bunch of drunken sailors in on port. They've been out at sea for 6 months, and they get those big paychecks. They're going to go out and spend.
Well,
So
you know, we had a city council. It might not have been the greatest, but at least they listened to the taxpayers before this one was elected. That was put in by our women's groups here and Planned Parenthood, etc.
Well, you know that city council, the
League of Women Voters.
the city employees, they're pretty much rank and file Democrats, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
City halls, city parks and rec, right up and down the line. That's pretty much Democrats they've hired. Well, these Democrats now are demanding all these big salaries, and they pretty much got a stranglehold on the city, the firemen, the police, and all that. If you don't give us the raises, we'll disrupt things. So most of that 1.6 million in new money that they're needing is going for salaries.
Mm-hmm.
It's going for the city manager. He's pushing close to 100,000 now, and all of his paper shufflers around him, and the heads of these departments, they only know one thing. They want a raise. They want more vacation time. They want more sick leave time. They want higher insurance, more insurance benefits. They want more time off, and they want more money.
And
when
we're supposed to pay for it.
So to pay for it, they're going to stick the taxpayers. You folks out there that are watching, they're going to stick you for 3.5% new taxes on top of your new assessment, and that's only going to, that tax increase on the real estate tax, Fred, that's only going to raise $760,000. The city needs 1.6 million to pay for all this new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you think they're going to get the rest of it?
Well, they might have to borrow it then.
Probably. That'll make the bankers happy because then they can get that insurance, they can get that interest. But, folks, you're the ones that voted them in, this 551, through that conspiracy with Cindric Carson and that bunch that snuck in that 551 and told you how great it's going to be. Now you've got this socialist government that knows only one thing to do, and that's spend, spend, spend. Now they want your money. You put them in there. So you're going to have to decide if you want to continue to keep them in there. But, of course, now they got the city government so jacked up with this 551, Fred, it's hard to get them all out of there, or at least get a majority of them out of there so that you can keep spending down. So they took people like Lorraine Lee and made scapegoats out of her to sneak in this socialist 551 deal. And there were some Republicans that conspired with them on that.
Mm-hmm.
I can name one, but that I personally saw with my own eyeballs working with the socialists to push that through. Well, they got it through, Fred. Now I hope the viewers here in Eau Claire are happy because they got just what they asked for. More taxes and more spending. So what do you think about that, Fred? You think I'm too harsh on them?
No, not at all. That's true.
Okay. And you know, Fred, they've got the whole state worked up into a lather.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a poll done by Wisconsin Public Radio and St. Norbert's College. And the three main concerns in this state are crime, taxes, and welfare. The three scare tactics.
Well, I think the crime issue, which is one that we have to resolve, is not number one in people's minds, at least in the people that I talk to.
Not in this area, but maybe
No.
Milwaukee and Madison.
Oh, definitely down in Milwaukee. Some years ago, I knew that was a high priority with people down there, because some of them were the victims of it.
before we were so rudely interrupted about the poverty thing, Fred, the point I was making was that after 34 years of unrelenting,
It didn't succeed.
after 34 years of unrelentless
Well,
invasion by
you know
foreign illegal
what,
aliens.
what their answer is to this.
What?
We got to increase the spending if we're going to eliminate it.
Well, you know, Fred,
Got to tax the taxpayers more.
in 34 years of unrelentless invasion by illegal aliens, we've got about 39 million illegal aliens that have came in since 1960, and that's how much poverty we have. So as long as you keep pouring water or keep pouring illegal aliens into a jar that can just hold so much, you're going to have that overflow, which it's going to cause poverty. So even though there's blacks and Indians and people in this country that are in poverty and have been since the 50s, you're never going to get them out because you keep pouring more foreigners into the pot.
Well, you know, there's one
And
thing
the American Dream Index just can't rise, Fred.
One thing I noticed when I was in high school, and we had some pretty fine students in there, but many of the black students dropped out when they were 17 years old. They didn't complete their school, and they were moving ahead. It took them 5 months to complete a year to do 5 months' work, and they were pushed ahead whether they were passing or not.
Well, Fred, they're doing that with everyone, black, white,
Yeah.
everybody now.
I know, but that's what's happening. They were dropping out of school at that time. And why were they doing it? Their folks were on welfare, and they were going on welfare.
Fred, you can't lift up one class of society by dumping millions of other classes of society, of other just as poorer people into the country. You're never going to lift everybody out of poverty if you keep filling up the pot with poor people.
Yes, I know.
You just can't do it. That's what I'm talking about, the American Dream Index, which the phrase I coined, copyrighted. It'll never rise. It's going to stay down here as long as the borders are wide open and people are flooding in to take advantage of our massive welfare system. And now on top of that welfare system, they want to dump a massive welfare health care system. Well, that's just going to be the green light for people all over the world to say, let's get inside the United States and take advantage of that too. And that one's a $1.5 trillion boondoggle. It was such a big boondoggle, Fred, that they chickened out at the last minute and they wouldn't let it pass. Congress came back to the constituents and said, we saved you. We didn't push that socialist health care plan. We saved the day. But those same people were the ones that were pushing it right up to the last minute. Okay, Fred, enough of that. We've got a lot more to talk about, and we only got 12 minutes to do it in. So, we're going to let you bring up a short story here.
UN Economic Redistribution Summit. That will be coming up next year. It's scheduled for March in Copenhagen. According to the event's prospectus, the independence of economic and financial decisions, often via multinational corporations, has helped fuel a rapid expansion of markets, but the benefits are not being apportioned equally. New forms of international cooperation must be devised that will make it possible for all to share in the positive aspects of globalism, like they are in China, where they may make 25 cents an hour or something like that, and those jobs that we had here have been moving over there. Our manufacturers here and workers are complaining about the flood of goods from overseas.
Right, Fred, don't buy Chinese. You're buying slave labor when you buy something labeled China.
Right. And Pakistan, somewhat similar, 25 cents or so an hour.
Yeah, they're flooding.
And they even got child labor, kids maybe 10 or 11 years old that are working some of those machines.
Well, Fred, I was up in Farm and Fleet with you one day, and we saw labels on clothes from the Ukraine.
Yeah.
What about
Guatemala, too.
What about labels on the clothes that say Made in America, like in Georgia,
Taiwan.
Georgia and Wisconsin?
Malaysia.
Yeah, we saw every nation in the country, in the world, except the United States for that clothing. It was ridiculous.
Well, they had one rack with shirts. I finally found one rack with shirts made in the U.S.
Yeah. Okay, Fred, we have a live caller, Fred, on the cow phone. There you have a picture of the cow phone. You can give your moo now, Fred. There, look.
Yes. Good.
Well, now you won't talk. Okay, go ahead. Whoop. Maybe it was line 2. Okay, we lost that call, Fred. All right, Fred. A guy that is well respected in Russia. He's a Russian nationalist. He's coming over to America to see us.
He
really likes to stir things up. If he can get a visa, see if they let him.
Is that Zernovsky?
Zhirinovsky, that radical, they don't know what he is, where he's at. He's all over the map with his thinking and stuff. He's coming to the United States, and we formally sent a fax to the Russian embassy, Fred, and we've invited him on the show here.
What?
We've invited Zhirinovsky on the show here at the Cow Report.
What? I think that's a big mistake.
Well, I don't even know if the guy can speak English, but we'll see what he's got to say. We'll nail him down on some of these issues. They got him all over the map on everything. So we'll see what he's got to say for himself.
And what?
So are you happy to hear that, Fred?
No, I'm not.
Well, we try to
I don't believe in giving my enemies any time.
Well, you got to study this guy. He's really quite a nut. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'm an Eau Claire resident. I'm concerned about with the recent influx, like the passage of NAFTA and what's going on with GATT, and just the politicians selling our country down the river for cheaper imports. You know, what does that say for us as Americans? And you two individuals, you ought to be commended for your you know, undying, patriotic support of this country. What do you have to say about that, especially with GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade?
Well, you know, that thing was so scary that Congress, that was another thing they chickened out at the last minute. And you know what they're going to do to push that? They are pushing it through. Dee Dee Myers got on at a news conference the other day, and she said, this will pass one way or another. And within 24 hours of her saying that, Mitchell and who's that guy in the House, the Speaker of the House? Foley, they come on and say we're going to have lame duck sessions right after the election. Now, lame duck session means after the bloodbath's over and all these socialists and liberals have lost, these lame ducks are going to come back in and they're going to shove this GATT down the Americans' throats, and they're going to sell out the trade, they're going to sell out the country as far as trade to overseas. And I don't know where the unions are at on this, but they dropped the ball on NAFTA and we lost that battle. They better get in gear and stop this GATT thing while they got time, because they better start doing some heavy lobbying before the elections, because these people are geared and lined up to sell out after the election. Our elected officials are.
And it's going to destroy our sovereignty, because it's turning over our trade policies to an international body where we have one vote.
Well, you know, we've got Ralph Nader and we've got Pat Buchanan working together to stop GATT. And also Ross Perot's in there fighting.
Got to congratulate all three of them then.
Gentlemen, can I say one more thing before I hang up here?
Sure.
I think the real concern, the individuals listening that are really concerned should write your legislators, show an interest in your congressional members. These are the people that can really make a difference. You know, our economy is going towards a service-oriented economy, and that's not where the family, where you can't support a family in those kind of jobs. It's got to be industrial based. We got to do something to get that back. Thank you very much.
Okay, you know, on top of the $4 an hour jobs, Fred, the illegal aliens flooding in and they're grabbing those jobs.
Right.
I mean, we got problems in this country. But you know, Fred, Japan just loved NAFTA. They're building a multi-million-dollar car factory in Mexico right across the border. They're going to be pushing them cars across in the United States as fast as they can make them.
Well, they may find that it doesn't work out quite as well as they think it's going to, because I know a manufacturer who went down there, and he has since moved from Mexico to Hong Kong. And he says over there, they really produce.
Well, they don't pay anything.
He says everything is down in Mexico goes mañana.
Well, the big sales for all these guys that went down there was, yeah, you can get that cheap labor, $1 an hour or whatever, and it cut out thousands of union jobs and good-paying jobs up here. But, I mean, it seems like they're trying to lower the pay scale for the whole country, Fred. They're trying to lower our pay scale so that we can compete globally. Yeah. So they want to turn us all into serfs and work for $4.50 an hour. So that
bring the rest of them up to our level.
So the whole world.
And one way of doing it is bringing us down.
So we'll have one big socialist love fest worldwide, Fred. Isn't that nice?
Incidentally, the New American magazine has a good article on gas. That man that just called in ought to get a copy of this, and I don't know where you can get it in Eau Claire. You might have to write to Appleton to get it.
Well, they're going to top off GATT with the WTO. Is that the kind of the cap on the whole thing? That's the police
World
force?
Trade Organization. Everything goes together.
That's the police force. That's tied in with GATT, and GATT's tied in with NAFTA. And so, but it says it's going to jeopardize our national sovereignty. And when you got people, when you got liberals and conservatives saying, "Whoa, let's back off on this," and you got a Congress that's scared and skittish, and they say, "Well, we're going to push this thing through after the elections. We'll show you Americans who's boss. Even though you throw us out of office, we're going to still do it." You know, so the lobbying needs to be done now, not after the elections. Okay, we're going to try and take a call here on the cow phone, Fred. And
Yes.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck, could you fellows do a little rundown as your fellow members on the party there, Chuck? Do you have a little brief of what what their positions are, what they do in the state?
The Taxpayers Party?
Yes.
Well, I can give you a little bit of what, I think I got about 3 minutes left, so I can give you a little bit of what I'm running on.
Recognize your name, but I wasn't so sure of the other fellows what they do.
Yeah, I know we've got a guy running for, well, we've got 13 candidates out there, and they're scattered out over the whole state, and we just became a bona fide state party statewide just in July, so the first time out of the chute, you're not going to have 200-300 candidates. You've got to start somewhere, so we started with 13, and that's what the United States started with, Fred, when they started.
Yeah.
13 original colonies.
Right.
We're starting with 13 original candidates.
And you got Ed Frammy running for governor, and there's another fellow running for lieutenant
We
governor.
got a lieutenant governor.
There's still another one that's running for a statewide office.
A guy named Bruce Abartis for Secretary of State.
Yeah.
And then we have several state assembly people running. We've got 3 congressional candidates, and we've got a couple of people running for state senate. So we're kind of scattered out through the whole district. I think I'm the farthest one north. Most of the rest of them are around Madison, Janesville, Milwaukee, in that area.
Okay.
And but we do have a lot of issues, and I've kind of narrowed down a few of them that I think are important, like the pro-life stand, term limits, shutting off the illegal aliens, shutting off the illegal drug trade that has everybody from elected officials down to hippies involved in it. Tons of drugs are being brought into this country, and they're just flowing in as fast as they can get them in here to poison the youth in this country. We've been the world cop for 50 years, and here we're going back into Iraq. We're in Haiti. We're in Somalia. We've got troops in Russia, according to Fred. We've got them in Bosnia.
We have them in Georgia.
Russia and
That's
Georgia.
taking care of, and in the Ukraine, taking care of the leaders there.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly we're doing if we're paying off our international debts, but we've become the world cop and mercenary cops for the whole world. We need to secure our own borders. We've got a massive flood of drugs and illegal aliens. So if we can reduce the troops in Germany and Japan, which we are doing, but we need to continue that, pull them out of there. We don't need to be protecting Volkswagen and Toyota. Let them protect themselves.
Right. Chuck, do you have a campaign office where you have some brochures?
Yeah, my number down there, 121 North Barstow, right across from the post office, and my number is 835-2133 down there at the campaign headquarters. If I'm not there, there's an answering machine.
Very good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thanks a lot. Well, Fred, it looks like the old clock on the wall says it's time to hang her up, and we will be here again next Monday at 2 p.m. Excuse me. It is in the schedule. I just assumed that we used to rotate 2-9-2-9, but now we're on 2-2 again. And then on the 24th, I guess we're on at 9 p.m. again. So we'll be back at 2 p.m. I want to thank Roy Rogers Hoff, Craig Lee, Linda Holte, Fred R. F. WDEAK Stafford, and the staff here at Public Access. And we'll see you again right here on the Cow Report next Monday. Good afternoon. Fred, that was a quick hour. We didn't get that call from Boston. He must have fell asleep on me.